Jason. Welcome back to the Leading is Serving podcast.
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
I am doing pretty good today.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We have been seriously integrating the whole peace index thing. How are you doing with it, integrating it in your life?
Oh, slowly, because I am not a fan of self-discipline.
And then there's that.
We lean into the five voices. I'm a creative, and creatives don't like structure and discipline.
Right.
But maintaining peace kind of requires that
It
at some level. And so I'm working through that.
That's great.
I'm getting there. But I would say I'm probably doing better today than I've been in the last couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've already recognized that about yourself.
Well, yeah, I was ready to get up out of bed and move this morning. So.
That's awesome.
And it's a Monday.
And it is a Monday. We are recording this on a Monday, even though we're going to drop it
someday.
Sometime this
someday
year.
Soon. How about you, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm actually, like you said, it's a good Monday. There's things going on, and we are moving right along. And my index is high today, so
good.
I'm feeling pretty good about that all.
Right.
And I struggle with what's the word I'm looking for? Some disciplines in my life, but you know what? I'm really just sold on this peace index stuff, man. I mean, Jeremy's just it's just good.
Yeah. So tell you what, let's drop this on November 16th.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this today, that means the Peace Index or the Peace Summit is tomorrow. Right?
Yes, the 17th, Thursday, the 17th. From
if you have not...
7 to 9?
Yeah.
7 to 9.
Yeah, or 8:39, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
We'll just see where...
Well, I mean, that's the current setup time.
Yeah, starts at 7 o'clock, Dyes Walk Country Club.
Yep.
Okay? And if you... go back a couple episodes, episode 49... Listen to Jeremy Kubicek, and you'll get a huge overview of what the Peace Index is.
We dropped it around the October 26th time frame?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And so that'll give you a framework of what we're talking about that night.
Right.
And how to implement understanding your peace and how to move forward. Right?
Yeah, because, so this is basically going to land about 3 weeks out from the time that we start. Well, then we talked to Jeremy, but it's been... over a month for sure that we've been implementing this for a while. But
absolutely.
Seriously talking about it here on the podcast since about a month ago.
So we would love for you to join us tomorrow night at, you can go to, we'll put the link in the show notes, but it's a bit.ly link, bit.ly. You've seen those, /peace-GW as in Greenwood.
Yep.
Peace-GW.
No need to remember that. Check the show notes.
That's right. But it's short. Yeah. So I got since we're talking about peace and people, trying to understand where they're off and how to move forward, right?
Right.
There's an interesting news story.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
I'm not sure.
So recently, as in November 7th, the National Park Service sent out a notice to visitors, specifically out in the West, back where I'm from, New Mexico, Colorado, Mountains, Rockies area, right? Please stop licking the psychedelic toads.
What? Are you serious? It's like a legitimate?
100% serious.
Oh, my goodness.
So there's a toad out there, which I don't know the difference between frogs and toads, so I might call it a frog later. I apologize to you. Toad
for those
aficionados out there.
Right.
But there is one called the Sonoran desert toad, or it's also called the Colorado River toad. Okay. It's extremely poisonous.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And people are licking them?
Yeah. Yeah. And it says, here's the actual wording from the agency, from the National Park Service. You ready?
Yeah.
As we say with most things that you come across in a national park, whether it be a banana slug, an unfamiliar mushroom, or a large toad with glowing eyes in the dead of night, please refrain from licking.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that amazing?
We've gotten to this point where we have to tell people to stop licking toads.
So the Sonoran desert toad it secretes like a poison.
Okay.
And it is very toxic. So like the article says like it can cause irritation, pain, tissue damage. A lick or two can cause numbness of the mouth and throat, as well as severe life-threatening effects on the heart. Even just like through your skin. Yeah, even just absorbing the toxin through your skin. So just picking up the toad, even if you don't lick it, can be life-threatening.
Oh my goodness.
And people are risking this because the toad also secretes a substance that is a hallucinogenic.
It's
a psychedelic. Yes. No, I'm not kidding. But yes, it happens.
That's crazy.
I know. I mean,
Wow.
there's news. I mean, there was a survey in the news about people who want to legalize psychedelics. Now that marijuana's gone through most states,
Right.
psychedelics are next, right?
Right.
Well, now the toad.
The toad.
Can you imagine going to the grocery store and be like, yeah, I'll take me a poisonous toad?
Yeah, can I have a poisonous toad? Oh my goodness.
But the Wildlife Protection Agency, I can't remember the official name of that one, but they have put out bulletins as well because they're warning of population collapse. That so many people are going into the mountains or going into
and collecting toads,
collecting the toads, harvesting the psychedelic.
Oh my goodness!
And apparently Mike Tyson is one of the big proponents of this.
Are you serious?
I am absolutely 100.
Oh my goodness!
Not I would, I promised so much that I would lick a toad for it, but
right?
Yeah, and I'm looking for it real quick, but I can't find it. But Tyson, he was in a dark place, and somebody dared him to lick the toad, and he has learned that
Wow.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
So
obviously, you need to check your peace index before you lick a toad.
There's easier ways. There's so much better ways than just licking a toad. I mean, we can know where we're at and what's off and how to take steps towards correcting. I mean,
right?
We can know these things. Oh my goodness! Come to the Peace Summit tomorrow.
Right? Please come to the Peace Summit.
I mean, let's be honest.
Not be licking toads.
It's $10 to come to the summit. It's a little bit riskier to lick a toad.
Oh, no doubt. Oh my god. Yeah.
Okay. So, what's a way that we can know that we're off? And so, I want to talk about one of the leadership tools that pairs really well with the Peace Index. Okay. We've talked about it before. It's called the 70-30 principle.
Okay? Oh yes. Okay.
Cochrom's law. Steve Cochran came up with this, and this is talking about if we think back to our 5 voices. Yep. There's some that are very natural to us. We don't even have to think. We don't even have to put out energy to live in that voice. Mm-hmm. There's other voices. It takes a lot of energy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Bruce.
One, you would call it your conscious incompetence. I know I'm bad about it. Mm-hmm. I can learn how to do it, but I just know I'm bad about it, and it exhausts me to do it. So if we spend 70% of our time in that unconscious competence,
okay,
it's the things we don't even have to think about. We just live in that strength, right? Mm-hmm. It just flows out of us, right. Okay? If we live in that unconscious competence, 70% of the time, we find that we're healthier in the long run. Okay. So 30% of the time, that's kind of your conscious competence, the things you learn to be good at. It's your 4th and 5th voice, maybe your 3rd voice at times, right? I know a lot of us find ourselves in roles that, require different skills than maybe is our number one gift and talent. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
That for a season, I've really, take the pioneer voice, for example.
Right.
I have to lean into my pioneer voice. Yes. Because we have got to move the ball down the court. We've got to be further this year than we were last year. Mm-hmm. It's critical.
Right.
But I'm a nurturer, or I'm a creative, or I'm a guardian or a connector, right? And pioneer is way down the list.
Way down the list.
The longer we lead in voices that are not our natural strengths, mm-hmm. the more exhausting that becomes. Okay. Which, what does that do to your peace index, you think?
I think it tanks it.
Right. And if you're living into your strengths,
then I'm shooting through the roof.
Right. It's easy math, right?
Right.
It makes sense. Okay. So the idea is to try and find a balance of about 70-30 in your life.
Okay.
Because, you could get to 80-20.
Right.
And man, you're really getting to live into your strengths, and you don't have to do as much that, exhausts you. That's great. If you get to 90-10, you probably you need to take the trash out still, right?
Right.
There's still some things you need to be doing. That's just part of life. Mm-hmm. And so we can't get to a point where other people always do the stuff we don't like.
Right.
And so, so we've identified that 70-30 is really kind of an ideal balance. You get lower than that, where you're living into your strengths, maybe 50-50, mm-hmm. and into your, the exhausting side, 50%. That's going to get old quick. Right. And you keep reversing that even further, like 30-70, man. And so thinking through, what are my natural strengths? What's energizing to me? You know, like I had the opportunity. You talked to me afterwards. I got to lead a half-day training for some people.
Yeah.
You know, for a team here in the area, and it went really well. I had a blast. I walked away going, that was amazing. I was energized.
Right.
I got home 30 minutes later. I might have been dozing on the couch.
Right.
Because physically, I mean, it took a lot.
It took some energy out of you.
But I was energized. I mean, a little cat nap later, and I'm like,
You're ready
let's
to
do
go.
it again.
Right.
You know? And so when we live into those strengths, it leans into our peace index being higher. That's us fulfilling our purpose, right?
Right. Totally.
You know, and so understanding in that 30%, what's our learned behavior? Because there are skills that I've learned along the way that I thought, oh, I enjoy this. This is cool. This is part of my 70, right? This is part of what gives me. But I learned that I really just like learning new skills. And once I kind of get the skill developed and understand how it works, I'm like, okay, I'm glad to pay somebody else to do that now.
That's too funny.
Because in the end, it really does drain me. You know,
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, you know, leaning into your world, I learned how to floor my, put wood flooring.
Yeah.
When we lived in Colorado, we ripped out the carpet and put in wood flooring on 3 levels of our home.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
2 stairwells. I mean, it was.
Oh wow.
You know, kitchen with the appliances and stuff like that. And so I started in the living room, which was a perfect rectangle with 3 doorways, right?
Yeah.
I was halfway done with that living room going, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I have to finish.
Right.
God.
Dang it.
And so I saved the kitchen to last. I saved the stairs to last. You know, I was just like,
Those are the hard parts.
I understand how this works. I don't want to be doing this. You know, and so we have to be careful of some of those things. That
Totally.
We can really enjoy something on the, you know, we enjoy the adrenaline and then go, oh, this isn't me. And so, so it's a great tool to be self-aware. Once again, like Jeremy said, you never graduate from the school of self-awareness.
Right.
Right.
So
That's
true.
a lifelong journey, and it's good. It's good.
Yep.
So take a moment today and assess your 70-30. What are your days full of? Is it the energizing or is it the draining?
Right.
And give yourself a a rating on that scale. Both numbers have to add up to 100. Just FYI, if you didn't figure that out. But and what steps can you take to offload some of the draining stuff and onboard some of the stuff that gives you life?
Sounds good.
So,
that's real.
Because often I think a lot of us as leaders take the stuff we really enjoy, we put it on the back burner.
Yep.
Because the other stuff is crying for attention.
Right.
And that's what drains us because
Putting
we
the
never get
fires
to the
out.
back burner.
Yep.
So
Putting the fires out.
Yeah.
So true.
And your learned behavior is somebody else's natural strength.
Yes. Can we say that one more time?
Your learned behavior, Chris, the things you don't like to do,
Right.
the things that drain you, that you might be really good at, but man, they stink.
Yep.
That's somebody else's sweet spot. That is their natural strength. They love it. It energizes them. They light up when you say, can you please do this for me? And you feel guilty.
Right.
They feel energized.
That took me for a long time to figure out. Like,
man.
I was like, wait a minute, you enjoy this stuff? Like,
Right.
are you sure?
Right. Right. And that's part of the maturity of understanding the voices.
Right.
Is that you're a blend of all 5 and everybody else is a different blend of all 5. And what energizes them doesn't energize you. And so.
Right. And it's okay.
Yeah.
This is
100%.
why we work so well together with
That's why
different people.
surrounding yourself with a good team, a diverse team,
is amazing.
is 100% effective.
Yep.
So there we go. There's your 70-30 poisonous frog or psychedelic frog.
Right.
Toad. See, I knew I was going to do it. Yeah. Don't be licking toads.
Yeah, don't we like to
Think about your strengths.
Yep.
There you go. So what are we going to do today?
Well, today I think I'm super excited because I know we don't have a interview today.
Right.
It's a little different today. Every once in a while we try to do a deep dive. We haven't done one for a while.
It has been a while.
But I am actually looking forward to diving into one today. So let's jump right into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're doing like marketing options, right?
Yeah.
Like as a business owner, as a leader, how do you navigate the messiness of all the requests that come in, or how do I get word out? You know?
Yeah. So I feel like once we start down that road, we're going to be in it. So let's jump over to it.
Here we go. Well, welcome back, Chris.
Thanks, Jason. Welcome back. Let's talk about these marketing, the marketing and trying to advertise. I mean, I know that we're getting to the year end of 2022, right?
Yeah.
So these things, and honestly, these things have been on my mind for a while. And I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to get a lot of phone calls. It seems like towards the end of the year, and and then I'm usually out of budget for advertising by the year end.
Right.
And then, but I also seem to get a lot of at the beginning of the year because they're like, "Oh, you got a new budget for the year.
Budget. Let's go."
And they're like, "Oh, what's your budget?" And then they were like, "Oh, what do we, that kind of stuff." So, so I'm glad we're talking about this because in preparation for 2023, I think these are things that we need to be talking about.
Yeah.
And, let's talk about some life lessons, that some of the things that you've used that have been helpful.
Right. I mean, I think some of the tension for me in talking about this is that, like, I've got my plans, right? Or I've got my unknown plans of, I really need to promote this or get this word out. Right. I don't know how to do it the best, right? Or I've got a plan of, I know I'm going to go this route, and then somebody calls or somebody says, "Hey, can you, do you want to put your business or your nonprofit on the calendar for our fundraiser at the school, or, buy T-shirts for the baseball team, or, and so it really just, it's easy to create confusion of what my marketing dollars are limited. So
they so are. And as a small business owner, I don't know any business owners that are, of smaller size that have an abundance amount of money that they can throw at advertising. And not know that it's being effective. Because, this is one of those things, I feel like it's almost like a borderline black hole.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of throw money in it, and you don't know what your return is on it.
And I would say, we'll talk about this later on, but I think there's probably 3 categories, okay, in that black hole of marketing.
Right.
And there's pros and cons, right? You have your print world, and it's probably easier to measure the return on that. Because you can put a coupon on it, or you can put some type of reference this, bring this in, or et cetera, et cetera. You can probably measure that easier. It's harder. The next area is digital, web or social. I think that's a little harder because it's just analytics and you're just numbers. You don't know exactly who you're hitting. Your website traffic could be off the chart, but
you don't know if it's directly from
Trinidad and Tobago for all you know.
Right.
It's coming from other continents. You're like, there's no way I can serve customers. And so weird things happen like that. And so you don't know exactly, email open rates. I think average around 25%.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, you send out 100 emails and 25 people open them.
Really?
They're hard to measure. Because my mom's on the list.
Right.
I'm pretty sure she's one of my opens. So is that helping? And then the third area is like word of mouth. And I believe that this is the most effective, right? The best billboard is somebody who's sharing a value. So, let's run with that. But how do you can't pay people to do that,
Right.
How do you get that to happen?
You tell people we did a good job?
Yeah. And so, those are the categories that we kind of wade through, and then we get people calling and making requests of us, and we're like, I don't know. I don't know what am I trying to accomplish?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I struggled early on. I think that in my business, we can talk about the ROI too, but I think the other thing that I also need to throw in there as part of this is are you trying to build a brand, or are you just trying to send out a special?
Exactly.
So some of these businesses are just trying to throw a coupon out there and trying to drum up some new business or something like that.
Right.
And so it's just or is it a longer term game for some of these businesses that are planning on being around for a while?
Right. I think everybody plans to be around for a while.
Sorry. I mean that. I guess I didn't mean it that way.
I know what you mean.
But
sometimes you advertise the long game or the short game.
Right.
I think, like you said, I think the biggest question is, what's our return on investment?
Right.
That if I'm going to invest time and energy and money into this marketing blitz or whatever, right? Is it going to work? Is it going to have a return, right? And so I think we have to understand how we measure that, which is what you're, starting to touch on, is what's my outcome? Am I playing a long game? Am I playing a short game? Am I looking for more customers and clients? Am I trying to drum up new people, or am I trying to offer a special or, bring existing customers in? Right.
Right.
Or am I just trying to get an understanding of who I am, brand awareness,
Right.
brand recognition? That's where we're at with the Uncommons. We're not necessarily trying to get customers to come in because we don't have a building yet.
Right. Then there's that.
But we're just trying to get the community to understand that, hey, we're here, and we have big dreams, we have big plans, and just be aware, right? And so sometimes it's about goodwill in the community.
Right.
I talked to one business owner that their kids' Little League team wanted to, we'll put your logo on the back of our T-shirts, our uniform shirts, right?
Right.
And I don't know who it's not my target audience.
Right.
And then we talked about, well, it could be a goodwill for the team, but, who knows anybody on that team, next door neighbor or aunt or, is in the target audience. So then you're doing goodwill for word of mouth. It's kind of it's an interesting game sometimes.
It is. And to your point, we recently, I think they were in the wrong order, but we did get a job at a local school, and we did advertise into a little running event that they had.
Yeah.
And it was it was a neat opportunity. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm super excited. My kids are no longer in that school, but I'm super excited about the school and the administration that's there.
Absolutely.
So it was great to support them.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was an act of goodwill. That was my goal, but we did end up getting noticed as well as getting some work from that particular school as well.
Right. Right.
So was cool.
Yeah. And I think that, if we're talking about your target audience, right, would that have been as successful in a school that you had not had a history with or a relationship with?
Yeah.
If it was a school across town in another school district, are you reaching into a demographic that maybe has never heard of you?
Right.
And so there it's brand awareness.
Right.
And in this school, it was, hey, I developed some new clients out of this.
Right.
Yeah.
And going back to that ROI, I think that it would have been hard to know that going into a demographic I didn't know versus the demographic I know, trying to know if there's a return on investment on that and in the demographic I don't know, versus the one I'm working with.
Right.
So
yeah, 100%. And so I think we have to sit down before we even consider the options.
Right.
I think we have to sit down and decide, what do we want out of this? What's our goal? What do we need most out of our marketing today?
Right.
And because
I mean, if you're in we've talked about this before. If you're in a franchise and you're buying a franchise for Subway, they have brand awareness.
Right.
You just need to make sure you're connected to your local community if that's your area, because that's truly the people you're trying to serve, right?
Right.
Is the people that are close to your store. Because you're not trying to serve people in Alaska and be in Indiana, right? It's just not going to happen. And most small businesses here, unless you're an online business, you're not really going to serve the demographic of the whole of the United States, right?
Right.
So you're trying to reach your closest pocket of people and then work your way out a little bit. And depending on, and more than likely, like you were saying, trying to figure out what you want, how far out do you want to go from your spot?
Right.
How far are you willing to travel, or do you think people are willing to travel to you?
Right.
To use your service.
Right.
These are all I think questions that are really work into how do you want to use your advertising dollars?
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got to define that demographic and the psychographic. And if like you were saying, geography, location, income, stage of life. If you're offering very specific product and services to a specific stage of life, how do you reach that group? Right. If you're a luxury brand, what demographic are you reaching out to? And things like that. And so we have to think through those things of, where is your customer? A lot of people recommend doing your avatar, your customer avatar. right?
Okay.
You know, of naming Stillwater Sally, right?
Right.
You know, or you know, we had Justin and Lindsay in one of my organizations of who are we trying to reach, and trying to understand. You walk a mile in their shoes,
Right.
you know, and understand
Exactly.
where they're at, what they're going through. How does your product affect them and help their lives be better?
Right.
Right. And when you do that, you have a better picture of, oh, well, here's how. Here's where I need to market.
Right.
Here's how I need to market.
This is how I'm going to reach those people.
Yeah. Like the baseball team example, right? It's a service specifically designed for largely elderly. Okay. And, you know, little league baseball teams kind of like, that doesn't feel direct.
Right.
But then you start thinking about it going, well, a lot of grandparents do come to games.
Yep,
right?
they do.
And when you're talking about elder care, then you are also thinking, well, it's actually the kids of the elderly
that are
who are
often
doing the care,
making the decisions,
and they're the ones with the kids on the team. Oh, you know, and so you start seeing those side doors into the target audience you're looking for.
Yes, that's good.
And so you start seeing the value and think of ways to do that. So, but again, like we were talking about before we hit record, of how do we find time to think about these things, right?
Right. Well, and I mean, like you said, there's so many things going on, but you definitely have to be intentional with this, because I feel like, and we said this, like, it can be marketing can be a black hole of just dumping money into something that you don't always feel like. I mean, I felt like that. I felt like that with one of my businesses when I was investing into some marketing dollars, and it's like, oh my goodness. And I mean, with social media, like, I know, like for Facebook and stuff like that, for marketing on that, like, they give you ballpark demographics. Hey, how far are you trying to be away from your office of where you're doing business, and what's your age demographic, and they can hone in on some more of that stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's a little bit more intentional. But I mean, I'm sure for some situations it's not effective.
Right.
And for some situations, I'm sure it's knocked it out of the park.
Right.
So it's you got to find out where you're at with that.
Right. And I think a lot of it comes into just our knowledge of the different mechanisms and vehicles that we can use for marketing.
Totally.
And know that as an owner, as a leader, you don't have to know them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not your job to know the ins and outs, but it is your job to find someone who does.
Right.
You know, and so there's no shame in asking around, going, how do you use social media?
Right.
How do you use print? How do you do, you know, and, you know, you kind of have to think through the impact that you think you're going to be able to achieve through your marketing based on what do you want out of it? Who am I shooting for? Where are they? How do they live? And then, you know, I think one of the steps that we also need to take is, you know, where's our budget? Like you were saying earlier, you know, we're rolling into the year where we probably have new budgets for the year and things like that.
And there'll be plenty of people that'll want to call you and stretch your budget for you. Like,
right.
Like their whole goal is to call you to make sure to try to lure you in to using your dollars for them so that they can get their job done. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't think they're ill intentioned. Don't get me wrong. Don't take that wrong. But at some time, you know, at some level, they're calling you. They have a job to do. Like
right. Yeah, and I think we need to think through the cost in a couple of different directions in terms of what does it cost. Like, what's the potential audience?
Right.
You know, of, hey, for $100, we'll get you before 100 people. Okay, I'm using that for easy math because I can't do much more than that
per person.
Right. You know, is it worth $1 a person? Are you like, yeah, I would spend $1 on every person that's going to be at this event or in this target, you know, that's going to receive this mail or blah, 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 right? That's worth $1.
Right.
You know, and they all cost different.
Right.
Digital is kind of known for being cheaper per view, per click, right? Print is a little bit higher, you know, in person's probably even higher, right? So what do what's it worth to you?
Right.
How many people do you want to reach? You know, if it's $1 a person and you want to reach 10,000 people, ouch.
Right. That's a lot of money.
And so let's find ways that reach 10,000 for cheaper, you know.
Yeah.
But then the other is, you know, out of, say, the 100 people that you just paid $100 for, 10 take action. So now it was $10 a lead. Does that make sense?
Right. Totally.
And is that worth the business that you're generating?
Right.
If it's for a $12 product, probably not.
Right. Or even
Right.
if it's a $50 product. I mean, like,
Right.
if your profit margins aren't there,
Exactly.
then $10 is expensive.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying every business is different, right? So,
Right.
like, obviously, you have to work that into your numbers to make sure that
Exactly.
you can justify those numbers.
Right. And so I think if we think, cost per view of that marketing object, whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of each conversion. And if those costs equal out to go, yeah, that makes sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a great option.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's a big one. And, then we go back to the 3 categories of print, digital, and word of mouth.
Right.
Right. I mean, what are some of the print options you've done in the past or you've seen?
The print options have probably been on T-shirts, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I haven't done it, but I've looked at it. The whole mailers, how those coupon mailers come out?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
like the Val Pack.
The Val Packs and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Like, I've seen those. And then there's always, like, we have a magazine that floats around here in this township that,
Right.
Seems to be focused on this area. So I've thought about doing that. It's more of a printable thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can get it, for like example, you can get it in the Val Pack.
Mm-hmm.
Fairly reasonable cost, right?
Yeah.
But you're one of a pack
Like
of
50?
50, right?
Okay. Yeah, it's a thick thing.
Yeah, and so you
It's
have to compete with the noise of what you're getting into,
Right.
but it's cheaper than just printing your own postcard, doing a direct mail, right?
Yes.
So that costs more, but you're the only one going in, hopefully, that day.
Right. That's going into
You
the
might get
mailbox.
3 or 4,
Right.
That's why we all have recycle bins.
Right. Well, and that's true too. Like, snail mail is one of those things that how many people pay attention to?
Right.
Unless it's a bill, how many things do you look at?
Right.
If you had a stack of mail that came in, I don't know if you do this or not, but I always forget to get it. So then by the time I go out and get it, I walk by the trash can on the way in.
Yeah.
And half of it goes into the trash.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to deal with it inside the house.
Yeah. You sort it before you even hit the doorway.
Yeah, it's and so if it's an advertisement, 9 out of 10 times it goes in the trash because, it's funny because I focus on word of mouth.
Right.
And I know we'll get there in a minute, but it's like, so that advertising doesn't really hit home for me.
Right.
The printed advertising.
Yeah.
Like, I think it has its place. So like, would you consider a van to be a printed advertising? Like a wrap, a car wrap.
Sure.
Now, see, I would say that those are phenomenal.
Right.
I love those.
Right.
Like, we have had so many comments with our vans and the wraps that are on our vans. I love our wraps.
Right. Because
And-
when it's sitting outside of somebody's home and you're doing a renovation there, it's parked there for maybe multiple days.
Right.
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 So all the neighbors know that, good old Joe and Sally are, getting their home worked on.
Right.
Right. And well, they must have trusted you. So that's a trusted partner now in our neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
And that being said, there's also signs, yard signs.
Yeah.
They're cheap.
Yep.
If you buy them right, I think you can get, they've gotten a little bit more expensive. So they can be anywhere from $10 to $20 a piece, depending on how intense you want to get on it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that stays in their yard after you leave
Right.
and becomes its own little billboard for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I know we've gotten work from those.
Yeah. Yeah. There's door hangers, business cards, and brochures, and, you buy space in the football program that goes out on Friday nights,
or even in the arena of the football arena, like in the high school, collegiate, and even all the way up to NFL. Like, you can be in any one of those spaces with the deep, depending on where your budget's at.
Right. I remember in high school, somebody put out like a 12-month calendar where you have one big month, at a time, and you always have a picture on it, right?
Right.
Well, they would design them for the businesses where the business was supporting a specific athlete on one of the varsity teams.
Oh.
And so you'd go around to businesses and restaurants all over town, and you'd see, oh, Chris Wood, there he is in his football uniform. And, did you play football?
I did not.
Okay. What were you?
I worked through.
You worked.
Yeah. I didn't have time for it. Well, I did
in your burger flipping uniform. Is
right.
that
Right, exactly.
And so I knew exactly where my poster was, and, every year I knew where my poster was. I knew where my friends' posters were, and so that was kind of a cool way to promote the business, but also promote the school by doing it.
Right.
That the business was paying the advertising space. And
that's
you
neat.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there's some creative ways about that,
right?
That are kind of cool. But so there's tons and tons of print options out there.
Well, and I think that if you're going to do the print option, I think the other thing that I've noticed, I've listened to a couple podcasts on this and too, is like if you do that, come up with a catchy slogan. Like something that's gonna even if you send a little present with it I've heard of some people sending some different things and it goes along with your business model, but it's kind of corny or something neat.
Right.
Like it catches your eye and or it gives you a good chuckle. I was like, oh, that's ingenious. And I have yet to come up with anything on my own yet, but it's those things that I think that help the print become more alive.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. I mean, there's tons of people doing color psychology and, graphic design. I mean, every year there's graphic design trends that shift and move because everything gets old.
Right.
80s retro is cool again.
And people get used to it. And once the moment they get used to it, they don't pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then there's the calls that you get for, hey, we can make sure your website is on the first page of Google.
Right.
Or we'll list you in this
Google
directory,
Analytics.
which is, gets this many searches a month and blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
And, and they, some of the digital marketers can really speak a language and spin you in circles.
Totally.
That totally sound good.
Especially for a guy who doesn't understand it all.
Right.
Right.
I mean, at the, one of the organizations I work with, is a nonprofit. We get a bill every year for a domain registry protection service.
Oh, really?
It's an advertisement that's designed to look like an invoice, like we ordered that.
Oh.
Yes, like due 30 days from receipt kind of thing.
Yes.
And it ticks me off every time I see it, every year.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you the name of it now because I don't know, but as soon as I see the return address on the envelope, I'm like, oh,
right.
I go a little ballistic going, this is cheap. Mm-hmm. This is a low blow, and it infuriates me,
well, and I don't know if you've gotten them for any of your businesses, but I always get them too when for the when you have to post the employee oh shoot, what are they called? The regulations and stuff like the expectations regulations thing.
Oh, okay. I
can't think of the name of it. But I always get, I'm like, what? The state is sending me this or something like that? That you have to have them posted at your job or at your place of employment. But they make it act like it's a mandatory thing which is, I mean, I get it, it's mandatory, but they make it sound like this is from the state. You have to pay this.
Exactly.
It's totally that undermined.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the work because I'm gonna make it look like this is something from the state, and if you don't pay it, you're going to jail. Kind of thing.
So I think a lot of us then prefer to do print because we're scared of the digital. Because there's a lot of people. I think that's more frequent in the digital world.
Yes.
100%. So, so how do we, how do you lean into things in the digital world? Because everybody's like, you got to have a website. You got to have, a kick-in social media presence. You got to have this. You got to have that. You got to SEO. You got to,
and all those things. The expectation is you don't really have a business unless you have those.
Right.
Right. I mean, you're like, oh, you don't have a website. You don't even start your business until you have a website. Because if you don't have a website, you don't have a business.
Right. But I know people who still look for the yellow pages. They're not going to go to Google.
Yeah. Right.
But sure. Yet, someone like me, I'm going to Google it first.
Right.
I'm going to go to your website. Mm-hmm. And so that is critical for me, but not for somebody else.
Right.
And so and one of the things that we're learning with social media is because you can have a really, it's cheap. right?
Right.
If you post a couple times a week on
Right.
Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you post a couple times a week, that's instant marketing.
Right.
And all you had to do is click your camera and write a few words.
Right.
Right? But what about all the stories and shorts and reels and,
Yeah.
right? Well, now you're like, well, I just don't want to deal with that. I'm just I've got my Facebook feed, right?
Right.
Or I've got this, right? And one of the things that I'm seeing very, very plainly in a lot of the things that we're doing right now with a couple of the directions we're going is that if we're posting just on our feed, like I know you do a good job on LinkedIn of like, here's the latest bathroom remodel that we did, right? That goes out and your 200 or whatever followers see that post, right? But like on Instagram, if you do the reel, I think it's the reels. I mix up the names all the time on all of them. They should just call it all the same thing. But we'll live with that later. That if you do the the story or the reel or the short term thing, that gets blasted out to people you don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so like we've kind of been tracking this with the church that one of the posts might hit. We could probably average in 200 to 500 views on a reel on Instagram.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, that's okay, not bad.
Right.
But every once in a while, we'll get one that's like 1,700 or 2,300. Whoa. Yeah, they just shoot through the roof, and we don't know which one or that. But,
right.
Because the right person watched it, and that gets the algorithm sends it on to the next person and the next right. Why one blows up more than another? Who knows?
That's interesting.
Right, but it's really fascinating to see that. And so what we're clearly seeing is you put that same clip on your feed, like we're doing 30-second videos. You put that same clip on your feed, and your customers, your audience, will see that. You put that on the reel or the shorts or the stories, and people other than your customers begin to see it.
Really?
And so going back to what's your outcome, are you looking for new customers, or are you trying to get a special deal out to existing customers?
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally.
So where do you post that? How do you do that? Right. That's one of the things that's been really clear to us lately is like, we're with the Uncommons. We're trying to build brand awareness. Just, hey, we're here. Right. If we keep posting to the same, say, 50 people that we had at one point, how many people see that? Maybe 53, because 3 people out of the 50 like it, and then a few more people like it. You see it, But if you post to the stories or the shorts, right, then we're getting like 400 and 500 views on it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And so many more new people are seeing it through the mechanism that we use.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so we've had to learn. I mean, it's a learning curve.
Right.
How do we...
I feel like that.
How do we create content for this avenue versus this avenue?
Right.
Video's better than photo, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, finding somebody that you're like, hey, what works well? And kind of like what we've learned about building a business. Some people build it from enormous amounts of detail.
Yeah.
And then they launch.
Right.
Others launch and then build in the enormous amounts of detail.
Right.
And they're both successful. Right?
Yes.
And so your business, you need to market within your characteristics, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's
good.
I think that's where we're going is that don't feel pressured that if you're like, I have no clue how that world works, and I don't know anybody that knows about that world.
Right.
I don't even know how to create door hangers. And if I got door hangers, what would I do with them?
Right.
Does that mean I have to walk every street?
Right.
Market to who you are, your character, your personality, where your people are.
Right.
If your target audience isn't online,
then don't.
Yeah. And if you're marketing to 19 to 21-year-olds, don't do it on Facebook.
Right. For sure. For sure.
Unless it's in Facebook Marketplace and you're trying to sell a motorcycle, and then my son's like, "Oh, I see it." Yeah.
Right. Then we're all playing on there.
Right. And so I think we have to think through those things.
I agree.
I mean, it's a hard world.
The last one is the word of mouth, which I think this is a big one. This one's I've used a lot, and I probably in my strategic platform for my business, like my expectations were that I was going for the long game and trying to create brand awareness, and then But word of mouth definitely became the key to that success of trying to move that forward, so that I wasn't just dumping a whole bunch of money in advertising everywhere and anywhere. Mm-hmm. So, the wraps on the vans, and then the yard signs, and we did well with those.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple things I tried that I didn't do well with. Mm-hmm. And then it definitely became word of mouth for people that knew us, or people that knew we had done jobs for that we didn't know were ranting and raving about us. So we were huge thankful for that.
Right.
And that made a difference for us.
Right.
So I think word of mouth is one of those ones that's, everybody always worries that you're going to get blasted on social media. But I think, it used to be social media. It didn't look like social media way back in the day, but it was still word of mouth, know.
Yeah.
So they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And, this is where your customer service comes into play.
Right.
That when somebody goes, I need to, remodel my kitchen, and somebody goes, oh my goodness, man, Chris's company took care of us.
Yeah.
Your customer service, your quality, your value that you bring to the table, that helps creates fans.
Mm-hmm.
That's
for sure.
That's a huge thing.
Yep.
And, and there's things you can do to kind of help that along. Like you can provide incentives, like, $100 off your next purchase if you refer a customer, or you can do things that people, from yard signs to T-shirts to,
And I mean, I just got sat down with another business owner who was giving referrals out to her customers to recruit more people that her customers knew.
Yeah.
So she was trying to recruit me. That was a product that I could use for my business, and was trying to recruit us to use their product. It was a operating software or something like that. And a colleague of mine got a referral, even though I didn't go with it. Didn't work. It wasn't good fit for us.
Right.
But he got a referral from being able to put us together and trying to figure out if that would work.
Right. Right.
So there's always things like that.
Yeah. I mean, the personal recommendation is really the hugest, most huge, the biggest, the most incredible vote of confidence.
Bingo.
In your business, right? And they can use good grammar or bad grammar. It doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter.
But yeah, I mean, if you can create fans, and I know there's books on this, there's podcasts on this.
There's so much information out there
about how to build fans of your business, But I think it comes down to the heart of what we talk about here on the podcast.
Right.
Are you fighting for the highest good of others?
I completely agree.
And as a business, if you're doing that, people will notice, people will recognize that and go, you know what, I want to keep my business there, or I'm going to tell others about this because, it's off the chart.
The crazy part is, I think you and I have talked about this too, Jason, is that it's not easy, but keep going. Keep fighting for that good, because these things are helping hands to that, but truly that is the thing that helps, I think, a lot of businesses launch to the next level. Like, it's not I don't know that you can see it right away, but it's definitely the thing that takes your business to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like you said, staying the course.
Stay the course.
Pick a path and stick to it.
Yes.
There is a long game to marketing. And, it might take 3 or 4 times before you... Is that what people have to hear something 7 times before they remember it, right?
Right.
Or whatever. Another thing that might be good... we talked about find somebody who knows about the channel, right? So find somebody who does social media really well and how they use it, right?
Right.
Why not just talk to some of your current customers, some of the people you know well that have used your service or product, and say, hey, when you get that direct mail postcard or you get the Valpak, if you look through those, what are you looking for? Because I was just thinking that the Valpak, I'm looking for a deal. I'm looking for something cheap.
That's true.
But the postcard, I would think maybe that's a little more quality. But then I would go research it anyway.
That. Right.
So I would ask people how, when you see this on social media, or you see this on your door or on your mailbox, or, in your kid's school program, or, how does that affect you?
Right.
If somebody's wearing a T-shirt, or you see my guys sitting at Wendy's eating lunch
right.
during the workday, and they've got their Stillwater shirts on, how does that communicate about your company to those that are in the restaurant that day? Talking through those things with people who are the recipients of the marketing, how they respond will help you as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So, all right. So all that's well and good, right?
Right.
Now you've decided, okay, this is the direction I'm going to go. This is how much I'm paying. This is who I'm going with. This is, blah, blah, blah. I've made all these decisions.
Right.
What do I put on it, Chris?
Oh.
You got to cover the 5 W's in the how, right?
Yep.
Who, what, when, where, why, and how. I mean,
yeah.
I get frustrated when I see an event being advertised, or you get an email and say, attend this webinar and blah, 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 and the date and time are not on it. It drives me crazy.
That is frustrating.
And I think they're trying to create clicks that you click through to their website.
Oh, that makes sense.
Just give me the
stinking date.
Yeah. Just tell me,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, who is this for?
Right.
Does your marketing clearly define, okay, this is for the 23-year-old college student, or this is for the...
Well, it goes back to your avatar thing.
Yeah.
Like, create your avatar.
Right.
Like, create that
Design
person
it toward that person.
that you're,
Absolutely.
like, you're shooting for.
Right.
Yep.
What are you wanting them to consider?
Right.
What are you offering? What do you want them to think about? What do you want them to process?
Why would they want it?
Right. And yeah, what difference? Where do they get it? How do they get it? When, all those things. But I think the question that we often miss is that why. That we're real quick to say, let's pick an example. What's a good?
Why would
I'm a burger place.
Yeah. Why would we go Dairy Queen over Wendy's?
Right. Okay. Why would I do that? Right.
Yep.
We talk about here's how you get it. Here's what we do. We have the freshest ingredients. We have we fly in our beef from the moon.
Right.
Whatever that is. Right. That's the what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But why do people care? Why do people care? What difference does it make in their life? And why should they care about your advertising in your product or service? Right.
Right.
I think one of my favorites that I saw when I was thinking through, there's a great book by Donald Miller called Story Brand, and there's a lot of study even outside of Donald Miller's organization and such about how people connect to story.
Yes,
and that's huge. I mean, if you go back and listen to the interview with Bo Jackson, he talks about story and how that thread impacts people's lives. Right. If you think about the story of their life and how that impacts them, that when I was first kind of going through all this, I was driving down the highway toward downtown,
right,
and I see a billboard, which I don't consider the best source of advertising for myself.
Right.
I don't pay a whole lot of attention.
Tell your face is on there.
Yeah.
Just
I hope it's not. But here's a billboard for a dry cleaner, again, of which I don't really use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But all it said was the name of the dry cleaner.
Okay.
Okay. Had a picture of like a really well-pressed dress shirt.
Okay.
And then the only other wording on there, I think their phone number was on there, their call to action. Make sure that's on your marketing. You got to have a call to action, right?
Yeah.
People don't know what to do with it.
Yep.
They're not going to do anything, right? But then the only other wording on the billboard was so that you can do whatever the heck you want to do this weekend.
Oh.
And I was like, that's genius.
Right.
We'll take care of your cleaning and pressing of your business, so that you can invest in your family this weekend, or you can go play in the mountains, or you can go to the lake. That's brilliant.
Right. Love
this
that.
This is the why. Why should you use a dry cleaner? Because it's clean? Because they use biodegradable chemicals?
Right.
Because they have the sharpest creases? No. It's because we take time up. Yeah.
The time.
Right.
It's huge.
So what are you appealing to in your customers?
Yep.
And talk through their why. If you're a luxury brand, you're going to talk to like sense of worth or image or look or appeal, right? Yeah. If you're a service of, we bring the safest environment, or this is how, I kind of like your tagline, honestly.
Oh, do you really?
Stillwater? I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yours is we take the chaos out of your home renovations.
Yeah.
So it's not we do the straightest 45-degree angle trim work.
No.
It's not that. It's we take the chaos out of your world when you get your home renovated.
Right.
We'll take the stress. We'll shoulder that, not you. We're going to try and deflect as much of that off of you as we can.
Right.
That's what you do for your customer.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly right.
We do tile. Yes, we do electrical. Yes, we do blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But that's not what your marketing has to be about, right?
No.
And so thinking through that why. What is the real benefit that you're trying to bring to your audience,
right?
To your people. So
love it. We've gone over a lot of information today.
We have. And so I think the hard part, again, that we'll circle back to is not picking or developing. It's taking time to think about it.
Yes. Be intentional with this.
Yeah.
Be intentional with your plan for next year, for 2023.
Yeah. Take some time. Sit aside.
Yeah.
Carve it out. Protect it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Love that.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that was a lot. Like I said, that was a lot of information. So
we kind of started outlining some of this, and I was like, "This will go by quick."
Yeah. Well, and then if you touch into the brands and stuff like that, like your branding and like, there's so much information there. But we'll stick with the information on the advertising stuff. So
yeah.
Hope you enjoyed today. We really do enjoy diving into some of these topics because there's a lot of good information out there. And it's a lot of things to consider. And I want to send a shout out to Andy. He recently reached out to me via email.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and he's listening to our podcast.
Sweet.
So, and I want to thank him for sending us an email and letting us know what's going on and just catching up. It was great to talk with him, and I look forward to catching up with him again at some point. So,
very cool.
Thanks for responding, sending emails and stuff like that.
Yep.
We always appreciate it.
Check out the new website, leadingandserving.com.
Yep. And
send us a message. Send us a voicemail.
Right.
And
make sure you like and share, subscribe.
Absolutely.
All that good stuff.
And, the new thing that we talked about last week on our 1 year, happy birthday Leading and Serving podcast, right?
Yeah, right.
is you can now support us, right?
Yes.
That we're going to, our intent is to stay ad-free, but if you enjoy the content and you want to just help us bring this to the world.
Right.
There's a button on the website now that you can buy us a cup of coffee. And $5 goes a long way into helping this happen. So,
and if you didn't catch it on the beginning, make sure you today. If it comes, we're coming out today. I think this is November 16th. It's coming out.
That's right.
Make sure you show up at the Peace Summit. It is phenomenal.
It is less than 24 hours away, probably, when you're listening to this.
And we're super excited about it. So
and if you didn't listen to this on time, well,
sorry about you.
Sorry about that.
Make sure you go check out Jeremy Kubicek's book called The Peace Index.
That's right. Hey, give us a like, subscribe, shoot us an email, shoot us contact on the contact page. We'd love to hear from you.
Yep.
And one of these next episodes, we'll have to talk about. We got a new review.
Oh,
yeah, we got a 5-star review. We have to look that up and give a shout out. So
yeah, for sure.
We'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks.